And ABC's contributor and former Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Elizabeth Neumann, joins me now for more on this hearing. Elizabeth, Noem would replace outgoing Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who was heavily criticized by Republicans over border security. And in an exchange with Republican Senator Josh Hawley earlier, Noem really tried to differentiate herself from Mayorkas. I want to play part of that exchange for you.
I repeatedly asked your predecessor, when he sat where you're sitting, whether the southern border was secure. And he repeatedly told me under oath, it is secure, Senator. And he repeatedly said under oath, our policies are working, Senator, meaning the Biden administration policies that, of course, gave us this devastating open border. So let me just ask you, is the southern border secure as we find it today?
Senator, no, the southern border is not secure today, but in just 3 days, we will have a new president in this country, President Donald J. Trump, and he will secure our border.
That is refreshing candor. I'm glad to hear it.
Elizabeth, you said you appreciated Noem talking about the broad mission and broad responsibilities of DHS in her opening statement. What do you make of that exchange, and how hard do you think it's going to be to balance all of the priorities of DHS, given the political focus right now on the southern border?
I mean, she is playing for an audience of one, and that is the incoming President Trump. So she will keep her focus on border and immigration enforcement, which is, quite frankly, when I served in the first term, that was the hardest part. The mission is so big at the Department of Homeland Security, and the Secretary needs to be overseeing all parts of the mission of the department, not just on the border. And I just know that based on what she has already talked about in this hearing, as well as just the realities of serving President Trump, most of her time and energy is going to be focused on the border and immigration enforcement.
So what do you make of what you've heard so far about Trump's plan and Noem's plan, for that matter, for mass deportations? Is it feasible?
I mean, it's not at the scale, at some of the most bombastic talking points we heard during the campaign. What you did see after the election was people start to scale back what could actually be done. And you do hear from the border czar, Tom Homan, kind of a reality check. He talked about, I need to know what my budget is. I need to know what existing resources are. And you see in Tom Homan a pragmatist. He knows what it takes to actually implement and execute the laws, and you can't do everything all at once. That said, I have every reason to believe they're going to try to work with Congress to increase the budget. They're going to try to move as fast as they can feasibly, but there are some pretty significant resource constraints to try to do what they have suggested they were going to do on the campaign trail.
Now, 6 people cycled through the Homeland Security Secretary position during Trump's first 4 years in office. Today, we heard Noem decline to say whether she would stand up to the president if he tried to withhold disaster aid from Democratic states. What did you make of that exchange, and how does that square with the responsibilities of DHS?
I was pleased that in her response, she said she was going to apply her authorities with no political bias. I'm glad we got that commitment from her. But she also said the questioner, it was Senator Blumenthal, who was asking that question, she said that was a hypothetical. And I have news for Ms. Noem. It is not a hypothetical. It is something I was in the room for during the first term. The president tried to direct us, the Department of Homeland Security, to not provide aid to California after one of the wildfires, specifically because he saw California as not supporting him. They didn't vote for me, so we shouldn't give them money. Obviously, we were able to work around that and make sure that the money flowed to California, but it's not a hypothetical. That is how he thinks. He's very transactional. And when you tell him, Mr. President, you can't do that, it's against the law, he gets frustrated. And that's why we ended up having 6 different cabinet secretaries during the first term.
All right, former Assistant Secretary at the Department of Homeland Security, Elizabeth Neumann. Elizabeth, thank you.